tomorrow, the Air Force is expected to announce the big winner of that much-talked-about tanker contract.
February 29th, 2008. It was the day the Northrop Grumman Corporation announced that it had been selected by the US Air Force to provide the KC-45A aerial refueling tanker for the KC-135 tanker replacement program. But notably, this jet would be based on the A330 commercial airframe produced by EADS, which these days would be Airbus's Defence and Space Division. Unfortunately, the celebrations wouldn't last long for Airbus and Northrop Grumman. Just days later, Boeing would launch a full-scale counter-offensive to convince the Air Force that it had selected the wrong aircraft. In the end, Boeing was successful in overturning the Northrop Grumman deal, having its 767-based tanker win instead. It's been quite a while since this whole ordeal took place, long before our website and YouTube channels existed, so we thought it would be interesting to take a look back for today's video. We're excited to partner with the Air Force for their #1 acquisition priority, the KC-45A tanker. This is what Northrop Grumman Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Ronald D. Sugar said in an official statement upon news that the US Air Force had designated the KC-45A as the winning bid. The KC-45A bid was led by Northrop Grumman but was a collaboration with EADS North America and General Electric Aviation, as well as a number of other American companies. This initial contract was to provide 4 system design and development aircraft and was valued at $1.5 billion, or about $2.2 billion in 2024 dollars. This would have led to a deal for 179 aircraft under a contract value of $35 billion, about $51 billion in 2024. The first KC-45A airframe, now known as the A330 MRTT, had completed its first flight on September 25, 2007, and was to begin military conversion to a tanker configuration. The jet's aerial refueling boom system was in flight test in early 2008, but had successfully performed numerous in-flight contacts with receiver aircraft. Clearly, the US Air Force conducted a thorough and transparent competition in choosing their new tanker, which resulted in selection of the aircraft that best meets their current and future requirements, said Gary Irvin, then Corporate Vice President and President of Northrop Grumman's Integrated Systems sector. The KC-45A tanker would have been assembled at a purpose-built facility in Mobile, Alabama, and would have employed 25,000 workers at 230 US companies. As we noted in the introduction, Boeing was not at all happy about losing this lucrative contract. After news emerged that the KC-45 had won instead of its KC-767, this would later be renamed to the KC-46 we know today, it requested an immediate debriefing from US Air Force officials. Per a press release issued at the time, Mark McGraw, Vice President of Boeing's 767 tanker program, stated, "We bid aggressively with specific focus on providing operational tanker capability at low risk and the lowest total life cycle cost. For instance, based on values disclosed in the Air Force press conference and press release, the Boeing bid, comprising development and all production airplane costs, would appear to be less than the competitor. In addition, because of the lower fuel burn of the 767, we can only assume our offering was more cost-effective from a life cycle standpoint." McGraw goes on to say that Boeing's bid was unfairly considered a quote-unquote higher-risk offering, but it disputes this label, saying that it is a single integrated company with its assets, people and technology under its own management control. It added that Northrop and EADS were 2 companies working together for the first time on a tanker, on an airplane they'd never built before, under multiple management structures across cultural, language and geographic divides. "We do not understand how Boeing could be determined the higher risk offering," McGraw stated. Boeing's public statement was just the beginning in the war of words. Shortly after, Northrop Grumman launched its own campaign to fight back. The company's CEO Ronald Sugar wrote an article titled "The Best Tanker Won," which was published by the LA Times. In it, Sugar states, "Since the award announcement, much misinformation has been circulated in the halls of Congress and repeated in the media. Some have labelled the KC-45 project a French tanker because one of Northrop Grumman's partners on it is the North American subsidiary of EADS, parent of Airbus. Others have charged that awarding the contract to Northrop Grumman will hurt America's defence industrial base and send jobs overseas. A few legislators want the contract decision overturned or funding blocked. Sugar went on to highlight that his company is undoubtedly American and its bid would support American jobs and companies, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in economic benefit. Let there be no doubt, Sugar states, Northrop Grumman won this competition fair and square. The Air Force carefully followed the laws Congress passed and ran the most carefully scrutinized selection process ever conducted. The Air Force cited the two most important reasons for selecting Northrop Grumman's KC-45. It provides the best capability for our warfighters and the best value for American taxpayers. Any effort by Congress to undo the award to Northrop Grumman would have unprecedented long-term implications for our national defence and for the industry that supports it, because such efforts would clearly undermine the integrity of the government procurement process. Changing the rules all agreed to play by, after the game is over, is simply not the American way. Outside of the LA Times piece, Northrop Grumman's separate press release asserted that Boeing had claimed that its proposed aircraft was rated better than Northrop Grumman's winning tanker. Boeing said that its tanker was superior on 98 criteria points. But Northrop Grumman countered this, saying that the Air Force identified approximately 800 requirements of varying importance, and that its KC-45 had come out on top for more important criteria, with aerial refueling and airlift being the two most important. In these critical categories, which go to the heart of the KC-X mission, Northrop Grumman was clearly superior to Boeing, attaining a 2-to-1 advantage in key discriminators, the company states, adding, "Where were Boeing's advantages? They were in less critical areas like having more interior electrical outlets, better flight deck seats, and the ability to carry secondary, rarely used fuels like Swedish kerosene."
Senator Jeff Sessions says it looks like the Air Force tanker contract competition is fixed, is biased in favor of Boeing. It's a $35 billion battle that Northrop Grumman wants to win for Mobile.
Outside of the heated public discourse, the U.S. Government Accountability Office, or GAO, was obligated to consider protests of contract awards and thus reviewed Boeing's case. And so, after conducting a review, it issued a 15-page document concluding that the Air Force had made a number of significant errors that could have affected the outcome of what was a close competition. The GAO's conclusion was that Boeing's protest should be sustained and that the Air Force should reconsider.
Boeing has spent millions of dollars in lobbying efforts, and that's not going to stop. And so we're going to have to really gear it up for this next go-around.
No one is certain what the decision means since it isn't binding. It could mean the launch of a new bidding process to land the defense contract, a process that could take years.
So, in 2009, per Flight Global reporting, the US Air Force relaunched the competition with a new acquisition strategy that forced the competitors into a pricing war.
The move is an unfortunate loss for EADS and its American partner Northrop Grumman, who had won the contract in February.
And then, in 2011, the Air Force officially selected the KC-767 to be the winner to replace the old KC-135s. It was noted that Boeing's offer came in lower than its competitor by more than 1%. This allowed the Air Force's evaluation team to bypass a set of 96 non-mandatory requirements that would only have been triggered if there was less than a 1% differential between the two bids. Reviewing this case, we can see that the battle for this contract was indeed quite intense, and that the war of words between the two sides got ugly. But, well, perhaps it's not that surprising when billions of dollars of work are at stake. If you want to check out the full 15-page government accountability report that overturned the KC-45's win, we'll leave a link to it in the video description, as well as other interesting sources. And so, what do you think of this whole ordeal? Let us know by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.